Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one that proves sometimes the person everyone overlooks can be the one who changes everything. It's about a millionaire, 5 daughters who seemed impossible to manage, a house full of failed nannies, and a single father janitor who walked in when no one expected him to. In the quiet, wealthy neighborhood of Willow Heights stood a massive glass and stone mansion that everyone in the city knew about. It belonged to Arthur Langston, a self-made millionaire known for building one of the most successful tech companies in the region. People admired his business success, his luxury cars, and his powerful presence in boardrooms. But behind the tall gates of that mansion, Arthur faced a problem money couldn't solve. His 5 daughters, Emma, the oldest, was 16 and fiercely independent. Then came twins Lily and Lucy, both 14 and experts at causing chaos together. 12-year-old Sophie was clever but stubborn, and the youngest, little Mia, was only 7 but could outsmart most adults. Since their mother passed away 3 years earlier, the house had turned into something between a battlefield and a storm zone. Arthur loved his daughters deeply, but he barely had time to breathe between business meetings, flights, and managing his company. So he did what many wealthy people do. He hired nannies, but there was one problem: none of them lasted. The first nanny quit after 3 days when Emma locked herself in her room and refused to come out for meals. The second lasted only 2 days before the twins convinced her the house was haunted. Another nanny ran out crying after Sophie hacked her phone and changed every contact name to embarrassing nicknames. The girls weren't just difficult. They were united that if any adult tried to control them, they pushed back together. Arthur tried raising the salary. Then he tried hiring professional childcare experts. Then he even brought in someone who claimed to handle the most challenging children in the world. She lasted 9 hours. Word spread quickly among nanny agencies. 5 Langston girls, one recruiter whispered on the phone. No one wants that job anymore. Eventually, Arthur became desperate. He had an important international business deal approaching and needed someone, anyone, to keep the house under control. One afternoon, he sat in his office reviewing resumes when his assistant walked in nervously. "Sir, there's no one left from the agencies willing to apply." Arthur rubbed his temples. "There has to be someone." The assistant hesitated. "Well, there is one person. But he's not a nanny." Arthur looked up. "Who?" "A janitor." Arthur stared at her in disbelief. "A janitor?" "Yes, he works in the maintenance department at your corporate building. His name is Daniel Rivera." Apparently, he asked about the job after overhearing staff talking about it. Arthur leaned back in his chair. Why would a janitor want to babysit 5 impossible kids? His assistant shrugged. He said he's a single father. Arthur sighed. At that point, he had nothing to lose. "Fine. Send him in." 30 minutes later, Daniel walked into the office. He looked simple, humble even. Early 30s, worn work boots, and hands that showed years of hard work. But there was something calm about him. Arthur studied him. "You're applying to be a nanny?" Daniel nodded politely. "Yes, sir." "You understand 5 trained professionals quit this job in less than a week?" Daniel gave a small smile. "I heard." Arthur folded his arms. "So why would you want it?" Daniel paused for a moment. "I've been raising my son alone since he was 2. I know kids who are hurting sometimes act out. I thought maybe I could help." Arthur wasn't convinced. "This isn't daycare. My daughters don't listen to anyone." Daniel shrugged lightly. "Then I guess I'll just have to earn it." Arthur stared at him for a long moment before finally saying the words that would change everything: "You start tomorrow." The next morning, Daniel arrived at the Langston mansion at 7 a.m. Inside, chaos was already brewing. The twins were arguing loudly over a phone charger. Emma had music blasting upstairs. Sophie was typing furiously on a laptop, and little Mia sat on the floor surrounded by crayons. Daniel quietly stepped into the living room. The girls looked up. Emma crossed her arms immediately. "Another nanny?" Lucy whispered dramatically. "How long do we think he'll last?" Lily smirked. "I say 4 hours. Daniel didn't react. Instead, he simply said, "Good morning." No response. So he walked into the kitchen and began making breakfast. 10 minutes later, the smell of pancakes filled the house. That got their attention. Mia wandered in first. You're cooking? Daniel nodded. Chocolate chip pancakes. Her eyes widened. Soon the other girls appeared too. Emma leaned against the counter. You know we're not going to listen to you, right? Daniel flipped a pancake calmly. That's okay. The twins exchanged confused looks. You're not even going to try? Daniel placed pancakes on a plate. I didn't come here to control you. Sophie frowned. Then why are you here? Daniel set the plate on the table. I came to make sure you're okay. For a moment, no one spoke. The girls were used to strict rules, lectures, and threats, but this man wasn't doing any of that. Later that day, their usual tricks began. The twins hid his phone. Emma ignored every instruction. Sophie tried hacking the house Wi-Fi, but Daniel never raised his voice. When they hid his phone, he simply asked if anyone had seen it. When Emma ignored him, he calmly reminded her dinner would be ready soon. When Sophie tried to crash the internet, Daniel walked over and quietly unplugged the router. You're pretty good with computers, he said. Sophie blinked. You're not mad? No, he replied, but maybe you could teach me something about them sometime. By evening, something strange had happened. No one had been yelled at. No punishments had been given, and somehow, the house felt calmer. That night, Arthur returned home expecting the usual disaster report. Instead, he walked into the dining room and froze. All 5 girls were sitting at the table, eating dinner together. Arthur stared at Daniel. What did you do? Daniel shrugged. Just made dinner. Arthur was suspicious. Don't get comfortable. This never lasts. But days passed, then a week, then 2. Daniel became part of the house in quiet ways. He helped Mia with homework. He taught the twins how to fix a broken bike. He listened to Emma talk about school drama without interrupting, and he even let Sophie show him how to code simple programs. But the biggest change came one evening. Emma was sitting alone on the porch when Daniel walked outside. You okay? He asked. She hesitated. Then suddenly said something no one expected. Everyone keeps quitting on us. Daniel sat down nearby. Why do you think that is? Emma looked toward the house. Because we pushed them away first. Daniel nodded slowly. Sometimes when people lose someone important, they're afraid of losing anyone else. Emma's eyes watered slightly. Mom used to make pancakes every Sunday. Daniel smiled gently. That explains why Mia liked them so much. Emma looked at him. You're not leaving too, are you? Daniel paused. I'm not planning to. Inside the house, Arthur watched through the window. For the first time in 3 years, he saw something he hadn't seen in his daughters' faces in a long time. Peace. Weeks later, Arthur called Daniel into his office. I need to ask you something. Daniel nodded. How did you do it? Daniel thought for a moment before answering. I didn't try to replace their mom. Arthur looked down. I think every nanny tried to. Daniel continued. They didn't need someone to control them. They needed someone who understood what they were going through. Arthur leaned back in his chair. You realize you've done what no professional could. Daniel smiled softly. I just treated them like kids who needed someone on their side. Arthur was quiet for a long moment, then he said something unexpected. I want to offer you a permanent position here. Daniel blinked. As what? Arthur smiled slightly. Not a nanny. A part of this family. Daniel didn't answer right away, but later that evening, when the girls heard the news, Mia ran straight into his arms. You're staying? Daniel laughed. Looks like it. The twins high-fived each other. Sophie said proudly, I knew he'd survive. And Emma just smiled quietly, because for the first time since their mother passed away, someone had walked into their lives who didn't try to fix them, control them, or replace what they lost. He simply stayed, and sometimes, that's the one thing that changes everything, and that's where today's story reminds us of something powerful. The people who make the biggest difference in our lives aren't always the ones with the most money, the best titles, or the most experience. Sometimes they're the ones everyone else overlooks, like a single father janitor, who just understood what 5 daughters really needed. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this one. And remember, kindness, patience, and understanding can succeed where money and authority fail. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.